47% of candidates at first stage interview have been rejected due to their lack of knowledge and understanding of the business that they're interviewing for.
You have to be able to know that you could get on with the team and you're working with these people. In a few seconds, you could probably give a negative impression to someone.
In this age of social media, we're seeing probably 60-70% of the first stage interview tends to be on Teams.
What can you do from day one? This is the amount of money you're paying for me. This is what you're going to get from day one.
One thing that's always known as being a bit taboo is how or when you should kind of bring up salary.
It's all well and true saying I can do this, I can achieve this, but you need to have tangible details that you can back up those statements.
Welcome to Macroscope, your lens into real estate hiring and careers, brought to you by Macdonald & Company.
In this first episode, we'll be talking about interview techniques in the real estate market and the built environment market. For context, I personally deal with local authority, government, built environment. That would be town planning or building control. And we'll be going through sort of the best techniques information I provide to my candidates before they go into interviews, whether it's in person or on Teams.
Yeah, so what we're hoping to do with this first episode is to give you much more of an insight of how we find interviewing techniques across the different kind of sectors within real estate. As Alex just mentioned, he covers kind of more local authority and contract work, whereas myself, I cover permanent recruitment kind of across private sectors within town planning and also general practice surveying. So what we're hoping to do is be able to give you an insight into the differences that we find within interviewing techniques between the two, the local authority and private sector recruitment. So one stat that we've come across recently is that 47% of candidates at first stage interview have been rejected due to their lack of knowledge and understanding of the business that they're interviewing for and the kind of type of projects that they're working on and the type of role that they're actually applying for. So we wanted to just sit here and have a quick discussion about what we think would be the best avenue to when you're going into a first stage interview and what you should be preparing for.
I mean, I find that quite interesting. I mean, in my market, the built environments of local government, mainly town planning and building control. I always tell my candidates to read up on the council's website as much as possible to see what kind of applications the councils are facing, and each area and each council will be completely different. So it's always good to then be able to match your experience, what you can do from day one on in the interview by referencing your experience to the current applications that they're facing. But I completely understand. Most feedback I get from candidates is if they didn't get a job, it's because they haven't done any initial research.
Across obviously both local authority and the private sector work. I think in this age of social media, you get a lot of information on companies across LinkedIn. You've got React News, Greasy News, all these different news outlets that focus purely on real estate news. It's so easy to go out there and find little bits of information that you can relay your experience to your current company, and how you could utilize your experience to obviously help the company you're applying for to progress in the future.
I mean, the depth of research may differ in between seniority. I mean, planning officers, for example, they'll look at the volume of applications that each planning officer will have to deal with, and it's all kind of target-based for them. Basically, they need to get as many out the door as possible, whereas a director of place or a director of planning will be looking at the governance side of things of the council. They'll be looking at the elected members, elected officials, how and relating their experience to different councils if they've dealt with councils where there's this like, for example, split between Conservatives and Labour, which is always a bit tricky, as you're probably well aware, and how they can manage those environments to be able to deliver for local people and the wider planning service.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of similarities between that and the private sector. As you're saying, when you've got candidates that are at the more senior level, that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years, they're going to be well aware of all the kind of governance and the kind of red tape across the different sectors across real estate, especially, as you said, within town planning and the new planning acts. They're all coming in, and the planning reforms, that they all should be aware of these things and be able to utilize their skills and knowledge and experience to kind of put together a more strategic approach to the interview rather than what it would be at more of a graduate level. So in terms of talking about kind of dress code and what to wear for interviews, my personal preference is I think that smarter dress code is definitely beneficial to you in an interview process. A lot of times, like obviously first impressions do matter. I know it's cliche to say, but turning up looking relatively smart with kind of trousers and a shirt would definitely put you in a good stead for as a first impression. I know that you can get certain situations where more casual attire is completely fine in jeans and t-shirts, but I feel like for some of these roles that we're doing in real estate, when you could be client facing and going out and meeting candidates, meeting clients, trying to push sales, then I think smart dress attire is definitely beneficial. I know that you have slightly different views on the public sector side.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the public sector is more casual, as you're aware, but my candidates and contractors are going into interviews are paid significantly more, so I think that they need to dress smartly. And obviously mimic the hiring manager as best you can, because obviously they set the tone for the department. But you are above, you're getting paid a lot more money, and you're a significant cost to that council. So I do think there should be a level of professionalism when going into local authority councils.
No, absolutely agree. I think one thing that all candidates could learn from is leaning on their recruiters. Typically, that either for roles that I work on or roles that you work on, you've typically met with the hiring manager. You kind of know a bit more about the business and the culture as a whole, so we'd definitely be able to relay you information as how to kind of dress. If we've gone to meet them, they're very casual, then we know that it's less of a threshold, and they'll be able to kind of match what they're looking for. So definitely think that we could help all candidates out with this situation as well.
Definitely, and I agree. And even if the interviews are online, being smart is easier. It's easier to be smarter online than it is in person. And I think even it's not just your attire, it's the way you sort of carry yourself, the language you use, your handshake. First, like I said earlier in the call, in the chat, first impressions are hugely important. And I feel if your body language, I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but what is it, a stat where you I think it's 80% of what you communicate is body language, than the remaining 20% more verbally.
Yeah, absolutely. As you just touched on there, that a lot of things now are done online. We're seeing probably 60-70% of all my new roles, the first stage interview tends to be on Teams. It's obviously fantastic in a way. Obviously, it saves time, saves pressure. You can kind of get a nice informal introductory meeting online before taking the time to go meet in person. So one thing we wanted to touch on here is how to make sure that even though when things are over Teams and things are slightly less sincere in a way than what they are in person, you get a little bit less of kind of the personal touch. Just wanted to jump in here and just say how we feel like you can make the best of the team situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what things should be good is to obviously check your internet connection. That is first and foremost. The amount of times that's been an issue in interviews is more often than you believe. Obviously, make sure you're in a sort of have a clean background, or just dim your background at the very least. And make sure you're in a very quiet area, because obviously microphones can pick up absolutely everything. If you obviously got kids at home, make sure the kids are in a different room, and just this kind of sort of basic, clear communication. And obviously, I always tend to tell people to pause, because there is a natural pause in interviews, anyways. And I feel sometimes if you carry on the conversations, then you end up speaking over each other quite often on Zoom calls. So even when you finished your point, just give it a couple of seconds, see if they're going to reply, and then if not, carry on with what you're going to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think from my side, another thing as well is, even though it is online, there's still an element of kind of body language and how you kind of hold yourself on the camera. If you like kind of hunched over into the camera, kind of talking really close into the mic, rather than kind of sitting back, sitting up straight, like as if you would be in a normal interview as well, I think it would go a long way.
No, I agree. I mean, during the interview, the main goal is to obviously show that you're a fit for the role and fit for the company. I mean, the way you do that is demonstrating what you can do on day one. Like for my guys in sort of town planning contract market, it's basically researching in detail what applications they are facing right then and there. So it's you can show that you've demonstrated your ability to hit the ground running from day one, and you can alleviate some pressure from the planning department in certain areas. And obviously that's what ties into the research side of things. And it's just basically demonstrating as best as you can, and how effectively you can be from day one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it definitely transpires over towards the private sector as well. I think the skill kind of checklist is probably slightly more lenient on the private sector side, because obviously these aren't contract roles which are for a set period of time. There's kind of longevity, career progression, and development that could be involved as well. So I feel like in the interview, it's much more about kind of showcasing obviously what you can do, as you just said, kind of matching yourself to kind of the projects you're going to be working on in the new company, but also kind of to being able to kind of explain to them kind of your progression plans, your development plans, and what you could bring to the team in 2, 3, 4, 5 years as well.
For me, showing a cultural fit is important. Obviously, you have to be able to know that you can get on with the team and you're working with these people. You're sat next to them or virtually next to them 5 days a week, 37 hours a week. So you could have the best CV in the world, you could be the most competent player in the world, but if you don't get on with your peers or don't have a personal skill, any sort of personal skills, you will potentially may fall on a hurdle. Some of the candidates, for example, if you go for an interview and you're the hirer and you've got 2 candidates that on paper are perfect, you're going to go with the candidate that you had a bit more of a chat with, because you have a bit more personal relationship with, because end of the day you're going to be working with these people. So if you're going to go for the person who is the right fit on paper, but has to be the right cultural fit as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, exactly the same over on our side. I think building a rapport with the hiring managers is obviously something that's going to massively benefit your application, and going through the process that leans into what we've already discussed about doing your research. If there's any way that you can find some common ground that you can talk about, whether that's companies you've worked for, projects you've been involved in, kind of anything like, even going to more personal interests like sport, let's say football team or anything like that, if you can find out that information, it's definitely going to help you chat with them, build that obviously more of a rapport, more of a friendship, and always going to go a long way into getting you hired. And it's another thing that you could possibly lean on your recruit for. As I said, we would have met with the hiring managers that you're going to be speaking to, so we will have more of an insight into kind of how to get along with them and what different things. And if we've got any more insights, then we can obviously help you with that as well.
No, I agreed. I mean, typically in my market, it's kind of usually one interview or 2 interviews most. First one's always done virtually. Second one is done in the office, and that could mainly be a reason kind of just to see who you are, and that you're the sort of similar person that you met on the Teams call, and basically you'll be shown around the council or shown around department, meet everybody, and then usually after that they'll say yay or nay. So it's always important to kind of be as friendly as possible and and have the best posture and sort of give those first impressions, not just to the hiring manager but to the multiple members of the team that you'll meet. One thing I would say is just body language throughout the whole. If you're lucky enough to get invited back for like a walk around of the department, body language is key, because you just even if in a few seconds you could probably give a negative impression to someone that you might not know. That's quite important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's similar. Again, similar. Never seem to see a one-stage interview on our side. Everything seems to be at least 2, sometimes even 3. We even have some clients that go into further rounds than that. But yeah, typically, as you said, first in teams, then definitely in person. And we've seen a lot of kind of more, especially at more senior levels, being more of kind of cultural or social interviews as well, kind of in the end of the process. So it'd be whether that's kind of meeting the rest of the team for the coffee, or go or meeting people for a drink or dinner after work, which obviously is also a massive kind of not test, but interview technique to kind of get more of a understanding of cultural fit, kind of how you get along with your peers and all that. Again, it also is just as important as how good you are at doing your job.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories that people that interviews been absolutely fantastic. They loved them. They've taken them out for a few beers after work, and the person's turned out to be a maniac, and then the offer's been rescinded the day after. So it does work, but it just shows you have to be sort of consistent in social environments as well as professional environments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about how you can be good at interviews and what you should be doing to kind of get them to kind of hire you. But we know what we want to talk about in this section is the fact that interviews are massively a 2-way street. This is also as much of an opportunity for you to be interviewing your potential new employer. How it's going to work for you, your development, if the role's actually right for yourself. Is it something that you can see yourself doing long term? Is it the kind of place you're going to want to stay for the next kind of 10 to 15, 20 years of your career? And it's a massive opportunity for you as well to ask good questions from your side, kind of learn about what exactly you want from the opportunity. What things are you kind of not happy with at your place, and how is it going to be different at the new firm, and just make sure that the role is actually perfect for you as much as it is a fit for them.
No, 100% agree. I mean, from my side of things, it's definitely about sort of work-life balance and flexibility. A lot of my contractors have sort of families and kids and whatnot, so this is where you iron out if it's logistically doable. For example, if you live 2 hours away, they want you in 5 days a week. It's just not viable. If they want you in once a fortnight, even once a week, you can make it work. Also, you need to talk about sort of the applications that and what the actual projects entail, and if that will sort of further your career, or if it's kind of a sort of step back in what you've previously dealt with. Obviously, that's something you've always got to take into account. And obviously, with planners, especially chartership, will this project benefit your chartership, or will they even allow you to, or apply for you, or kind of pay for you to become chartered?
Yep.
And MRTPI. So it's always it's definitely a two-way street in that sense.
No, absolutely. I think it's a great platform for you to delve so much deeper into kind of the understanding of the opportunity. So when you go for the roles, as you see it with most things, all you see is a job description on a piece of paper, or a quick conversation with your recruiter, who can give you as obviously much insight as they know, but obviously they're not there day to day within the business as the people who would be hiring are. So definitely a platform for you to find out much more. Is it going to help your development? Is it the right move for you? Is it going to be beneficial for you to move in the long way? So it's definitely crucial for you as well. Definitely a two-way street.
Definitely, and like you've always got to remember, you're the one that's upending your life for this move.
Yep.
And if it doesn't work out, it's going to make things a bit more difficult for you going forward. So this is where you need to make sure that everything is 100% accurate and 100% the right move, because otherwise you'll be in the same boat a month or two afterwards.
Yeah. One thing that's always known as being a bit taboo is how or when you should kind of bring up salary within interviews, and the kind of total remuneration and package of the roles, because there's always kind of a bit of treading eggshells around the subject. So when do you kind of feel like that should be brought up?
Well, it's a bit different for me, but I mean, I always have, when day rates and hourly rates, my candidates and clients will know a ballpark figure of how much it will roughly cost. But the reason I like to kind of lean into confirming the day rates and hourly rates after the interview is in my environment, it's ever changing. And I could tell them guarantee an hourly rate with the client, and then by the time the candidate gets the interview, the role could potentially change. It is more complex than the candidate originally thought. Local government's always a ever-changing environment, so the reason I like to do that is then after the interview I can then hit the client with the all-in-charge rate, and there's no having to renegotiate a different charge rate, because sort of extra projects were discussed in the interview, which would obviously they need significant more remuneration compared to when we agreed at the start of the process. So it's a bit different for me, but it's there or thereabouts. Both parties will know the ballpark figure.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I know it's still very similar on the private sector side as well. I think being open and transparent is just going to make things better for everyone in the long run. That's from both sides, from candidate side and from a client side, because if you're going in and you don't know what the salary is, then people aren't going to apply for the role. Like there needs to be transparency from both sides. I think, as you said, when I take on roles on the private sector side, I like to get a ballpark. You have to get a ballpark, just because you know where to target the market, where to target the candidates, and just being able to offer them, say, look, we're working within this range. If that's going to work for you, then we're happy to progress through the process, and then it works out the same for the candidates, and everyone kind of knows we're in the same boat. And then typically it gets to kind of is after the first stage, maybe the second stage, come the end of the second stage interview process. Then we kind of talk about more figures and get down to the finer details, but at least everyone at that point is already in the same ballpark.
Yeah, no, very much. I agree.
So let's next talk about kind of soft skills. Soft skills obviously tend to be kind of a bit of a buzzword that gets thrown around, but obviously they're definitely kind of important to demonstrate. On the McDonald & Company latest salary survey, which we do every year, the main three kind of soft skills that clients like to see was decision making, teamwork, and problem solving. So I think from them three, that's probably if you are in an interview situation, being able to kind of demonstrate things across them three situations would definitely be the most beneficial. Within the kind of real estate industry and the line of work we're in, most of the stuff I work is consultancy led. So there's a lot of collaboration and teamwork, whether you're working with the client, whether you're working with the different teams, whether you're a planner and working with the development team, whether you're a surveyor and working with the agency team or the land team. There's a lot of collaboration within the industry, whether it's within your company, or whether it's external with agents, with clients, and then these kind of soft skills are definitely going to be beneficial, and they will want to know how you'll be able to work with the team, how you're going to be able to work, if you're going to be part of their brand, how you're going to look to the outside world when you're meeting with clients, and how that's all going to work, and how you're going to be able to collaborate and work with them in the teams and get to the kind of desired end result of all the projects you work on.
No, I agree. I mean, obviously that shows that you have to have quite a nice personality and it's an easygoing person. I mean, best way to do that, to demonstrate that for myself, would be obviously avoid awkward silences. That's one of probably the most important questions. But obviously, don't be too overly keen and sort of shower the person with too many questions. But I would say in an interview, it's always best to ask a few questions. For example, you could ask them what issues they had. If you're like for a graduate, for example, you could ask them what sort of issues they faced in the first couple of years in sort of as a planner, or if you're like a senior director levels or assistant director of planning, you can sort of ask what kind of challenges the council has been facing in the last 5 years. Yeah. Especially when in the industry now, working sort of government reorganisations on the horizon. So you can ask, that's obviously a big challenge. So you can ask where does he see the council or the government in like 10 years time, and yeah, just be as sort of inquisitive as possible, but trying to be as subtle as well.
Yeah, I think naturally, anyone was going to be naturally curious anyway.
Yeah,
when you go for a new role, and I think being able to just ask them questions, get the right answers you need. As I know we mentioned earlier, everything's a two-way street as well.
Exactly.
So it's from both sides.
Yeah, and just also it's just being as sort of switched on from the time you're working to reception. There might be a little bits of like hints that you can sort of speak about in the interview. You might see like a picture of him and his wife in, I don't know, Alaska or something that you can try and relate to, and stuff like that. So a lot of hints and tips around offices that you can sort of show that you're bring your personality across and show that you're right fit for the team.
Yep, absolutely.
So Dan, from our conversation today, what sort of important points can you reflect on to summarise?
I'd say my main takeaway point is from the whole conversation is the fact that interviews are definitely a two-way street. I think a lot of people get in their head about getting nervous because they're interviewing for the client, and I think it's definitely much as about you interviewing them as it is about them interviewing you. I think from my biggest takeaway point from today is the fact that all candidates, I know it is kind of scary and it can be quite daunting going for these interviews, feeling you have to talk about yourself. But I think they should all be aware that it's as much about you as it is about them. And on a second note to that, I think building a rapport with the interviewers is definitely the most beneficial thing that you can do. That's lean on your recruiter as much as you can. They'll be able to give you much more of an insight into culture, kind of into the people. They would have met with them before, they would have spoke to them before. So you can get kind of more of a basic understanding of who you're going to be meeting before you even go into the call, rather than being kind of a immediate kind of shock when you do meet someone, just having that information first.
I completely agree. I mean, the points I would sort of highlight is definitely sort of soft skills as well. Being punctual, obviously body language, sort of communication is highly important, and obviously specifics. What can you do from day one? This is the amount of money you're paying for me. This is what you're going to get from day one, and obviously in perm recruitment, this is what you're going to get in 4, 5, 10 years time. And you do that by being very specific, sort of have details of examples that you can refer to. It's all well and true saying I can do this, I can achieve this, but you need to have the tangible elements, details that you can back up those statements. And I think for me, that comes obviously leads on to preparation. You'll only get that by being very, very prepped for the interviews. And for me, that's the sort of most important aspects that we spoke about today.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. If you're exploring your next role or want to dive deeper into this episode, check out the show description for more information. To connect with a consultant, visit mcdonaldandcompany.com/contact or subscribe to the McDonald & Co YouTube channel for more episodes of Macroscope. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.